Have you ever spoken words you instantly regretted? We've all been there. Those moments when a careless remark slips out, only to leave us wishing we could rewind time. But what if you could master your speech, ensuring that every word you utter reflects wisdom, confidence, and inner peace? Imagine how different your interactions would be if your words carried weight, meaning, and depth, rather than being lost in the noise of everyday conversation. Today we'll explore 6 things a wise person never says, drawing insights from Buddhist philosophy. While Stoicism teaches us discipline and emotional resilience, Buddhism offers a deeper understanding of mindfulness and the profound impact of right speech. This journey is not just about avoiding harmful words, it's about refining the way we communicate to create deeper, more meaningful connections with others and within ourselves. Words are not just sounds, they shape our reality. In Buddhism, speech is one of the core components of the Eightfold Path. Right speech, which encourages truthfulness, kindness, and constructive dialogue. When we refine our speech, we elevate not only our conversations, but also our personal growth. From resisting the urge to boast to embracing the power of silence, these lessons extend beyond communication. They define our character. By the end of this video, you'll gain practical insights that will help you refine your speech, cultivate wisdom, and build stronger, more authentic connections. Number 1, avoid boasting about knowledge. Have you ever met someone who seems to drop knowledge like it's going out of style? At first, it might seem impressive, like they're a walking encyclopedia, a mind brimming with insights. But over time, something shifts. That same flood of facts starts to feel more like a barrier than a bridge. Why? Because boasting, whether intentional or not, slowly turns conversations into monologues, where one person does all the talking and everyone else is left in the background, silent and shrinking. The truth is, boasting about knowledge doesn't just flaunt intellect, it creates distance. It makes others feel small, like they're somehow lacking. We all have a tendency to measure ourselves against those who seem to know more, but instead of inspiring, it can make us feel inadequate. This dynamic is a direct reflection of Buddhist teachings on humility. The Buddha didn't need to boast about his wisdom. His enlightenment wasn't something to parade. It was embodied in his actions, his deep compassion, his quiet strength. True wisdom doesn't demand attention. It speaks for itself through the way we live, listen, and interact with the world. Let me share a personal story. I had a friend, David, a brilliant scholar in Eastern philosophy. Every conversation with him felt like a masterclass. He had an endless stream of historical references, profound quotes, and teachings from every tradition. At first, I was in awe of his knowledge, but as time passed, I began to feel like I was just an audience member, not a participant. His words were more about showcasing his intellect than fostering real dialogue. He never seemed to leave space for others to share or learn. One day, Maria, a fellow student, told him something that hit home. "You have so much wisdom, but instead of teaching, you seem to be testing us." That simple observation changed David's perspective forever. He realized that knowledge isn't about proving how much you know. It's about sharing in a way that lifts others up, not pulls them down. Buddhism teaches that wisdom should transform, not to build your ego, but to better the world around you. True enlightenment isn't about collecting knowledge for personal pride. It's about integrating that wisdom into how we live, interact, and treat others. The Buddha never paraded his enlightenment because his life was a living example of it. His wisdom wasn't meant to impress, it was meant to uplift. When we let go of the need for validation, we open ourselves up to deeper, more meaningful connections. Instead of using knowledge to elevate ourselves, we use it to elevate others. The best way to teach is to listen first, speak second. By practicing mindfulness in our communication, we not only enrich our relationships, but we create an open space for others to share their wisdom too. So next time you're in a conversation, ask yourself, why am I sharing this? Is it to elevate others or to lift myself? The answer will shape not just how you communicate, but how you grow. Let go of the need to prove your intelligence. In doing so, you create room for genuine learning, both for yourself and others. The next time you're speaking with someone, focus more on listening than talking. Notice how much richer the exchange becomes when you stop trying to outdo others with your own knowledge. Remember, True wisdom doesn't need to boast, it simply exists. And the way we share it, with humility and mindfulness, has the power to transform not only ourselves, but everyone we encounter. Number 2, never dismiss others' opinions. Have you ever been in a conversation where, just as you start to share your thoughts, someone cuts you off and dismisses your ideas before you even finish? It's a feeling that sticks with you, isn't it? At first, it might leave you feeling a little shaken, maybe even frustrated. But when it happens again and again, it can start to chip away at your confidence, leaving you with the sense that your voice doesn't matter, that your perspective is invisible. It's not just about the rejection of your words. It's the subtle message that your opinions are undervalued. And that's what truly stings. Sadly, many people don't even realize they're doing this. They assume their own perspective is the most valid, the only one that matters. But Buddhism teaches us something different. Wisdom doesn't come from asserting superiority, nor from shutting down others. It comes from being open, from listening deeply. The Buddha once said, "The greatest wisdom lies in the ability to understand different perspectives." When we truly listen, when we take the time to step into another person's shoes, that's when real understanding begins. And let's face it, this approach to listening is almost a rarity in today's world. Too often we find ourselves in debates or discussions where the goal isn't understanding, but winning. People listen just long enough to form their counter-argument, not to absorb what the other person is saying. But that's not wisdom. True wisdom comes from listening with an open heart and mind, creating space for all perspectives to be heard and appreciated. When we dismiss someone's opinion outright, we not only cut them off, we cut ourselves off from the chance to grow. By rejecting others, we close the door on our own potential for learning. The Buddha's teachings remind us, wisdom isn't about being the loudest, most opinionated voice in the room. It's about being the one who listens, the one who seeks to understand. I can recall a personal experience that really brought this lesson to life. A few years ago, I was leading a discussion at a small meditation group. One day, a newcomer joined us. At first, he was quiet, just observing, but then he shared an idea that didn't sit well with me. It was unconventional, a little outside the traditional teachings we'd been discussing. Immediately, I felt the urge to reject it. I could already hear the reasons why it was wrong in my mind. But instead of shutting him down, I chose to listen. I gave him the space to finish his thoughts without judgment, and as I did, I was surprised by what I heard. His perspective opened up a new layer of understanding that I had never considered before. It challenged my thinking, not just intellectually, but spiritually as well. At first, his idea seemed almost contradictory to what I believed, but after reflecting on it, I realized it was a valuable insight. That moment taught me a powerful lesson. Everyone, no matter how inexperienced they seem, has something valuable to contribute. Wisdom isn't limited to the obvious or the conventional. Sometimes it's in the ideas that make us pause and rethink everything we've known. It reminded me that wisdom isn't a scarce resource reserved for the few. It's available to all of us, and it's only when we stop dismissing others' perspectives that we open ourselves up to this collective well of wisdom. Rejecting someone's opinion doesn't just harm them, it limits our own growth. More often than not, we reject ideas not because they're wrong, but because they don't fit into the neat little box we've already created for ourselves. But if we approach every conversation with curiosity instead of defensiveness, we create room for real exchange and transformation. So what can we do when we feel the urge to dismiss an idea? The next time you find yourself ready to reject someone's perspective, pause for a moment. Instead of jumping to conclusions, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? Even if the idea seems flawed or confusing, there might be a hidden insight within it, something that challenges your thinking or invites you to explore a new question. This pause allows you to step outside your own perspective and see the world through someone else's eyes. This is humility in practice, the recognition that we don't have all the answers, and that wisdom is not something to cling to, it's something to share. In Buddhist practice, wisdom isn't about proving yourself right, nor about clinging to your own opinions. It's about embracing the truth that wisdom is multifaceted, shared, and ever-evolving. The Buddha didn't claim to have all the answers. He encouraged us to find our own understanding, guided by compassion and mindfulness. He listened deeply, not from a place of judgment, but from a place of openness. This is the true nature of wisdom, the willingness to engage with diverse viewpoints, to find common ground, and to grow in the process. When we practice deep listening, we build trust with others. We create an environment where people feel safe to share their ideas, knowing they won't be dismissed. And in those spaces, knowledge flourishes, not just because we allow others to speak, but because we open ourselves up to learning from them. How many times have you learned something new just by listening to someone who sees the world differently than you? True wisdom, as the Buddha taught, isn't just intellectual. It's the ability to connect, to understand, and to grow together. So next time you're in a conversation, whether with someone you agree with or not, take a moment to listen with intention. Open your heart, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? You might be surprised by how much richer the conversation becomes and how much deeper your understanding of the world and of others grows. Number 3, refrain from complaining without purpose. Imagine this scenario. Peter is a successful professional. He has a high-powered job, a strong network, and a comfortable lifestyle. To the outside world, he seems to have it all together. Yet there's one thing that consistently follows him wherever he goes: complaining. He complains about work, his overwhelming tasks, the never-ending deadlines, the disorganized systems. He complains about his colleagues, how they don't appreciate his contributions, how they don't pull their weight, and he complains about life's small inconveniences, traffic, the weather, or even the tiniest daily annoyances. At first, his friends sympathize. After all, everyone has tough days and a little venting can feel cathartic. But over time, something starts to shift. Peter's complaints don't seem to be about finding solutions. They're just complaints for the sake of complaining. His friends, once understanding, begin to feel drained. The negativity becomes contagious, and the constant barrage of dissatisfaction starts to erode their patience. Then one day, during yet another round of complaints, a close friend asks, "Peter, what are you doing to fix these problems?" The question hangs in the air, and for a moment, Peter is silent. He hasn't considered this. His mind has been so fixated on the problems, the things beyond his control, that he never stopped to ask if there was something he could do about them. That's when it hits him. His complaints aren't helping anything. They're just reinforcing his sense of helplessness. Instead of using his energy to solve the issues or change his situation, he's been pouring it all into complaining. And as he complains, the cycle of frustration only deepens. This moment is a wake-up call. Complaining, Peter realizes, isn't just a harmless habit, it's a trap. It's easy to fall into the habit of complaining when life feels out of our control. Complaining can feel like a way to express frustration, seek sympathy, or just vent. But when we complain without purpose, without intention to change anything, we only prolong our suffering. Buddhism teaches that suffering arises from attachment to dissatisfaction. We cling to our unhappiness, letting it dominate our thoughts and conversations. The more we focus on what's wrong, the more real that dissatisfaction becomes. The Buddha spoke often about the root of our suffering: attachment to things, people, expectations, even to our own ideals. When we complain, we're attaching ourselves to the idea that life should be different, that our circumstances are unfair, unjust, or somehow wrong. But Buddhism encourages us to detach from dissatisfaction, to accept things as they are, without letting them control our emotional state. Instead of focusing on things we cannot change, we are taught to focus on what we can influence, and to cultivate acceptance where change is impossible. Mindfulness is the key here. Mindfulness is about being fully present, observing life without judgment, and acknowledging what is without letting it overwhelm us. When we apply mindfulness to our frustrations, we begin to shift our perspective. Rather than complaining about everything that's going wrong, we can start to see each challenge as an opportunity for growth. This doesn't mean we ignore our frustrations or pretend everything is perfect. It simply means we stop allowing those frustrations to define our experience. When we stop complaining and start seeking solutions, we reclaim our power, we stop reinforcing helplessness, and begin to cultivate resilience. Mindfulness helps us transform frustration into growth. It teaches us to direct our emotional energy in ways that benefit us. Complaining feeds negativity, while mindfulness directs that energy toward finding solutions, making changes, or at the very least, learning to accept what we cannot change. For instance, if Peter finds himself in a situation that frustrates him, whether it's a difficult work environment or challenging colleagues, he can stop and ask himself, what can I do about this? If the answer is nothing, the next step is to let it go. Wasting energy on something beyond his control only feeds into negativity. If the answer is something, then it's time to take action. Whether it's communicating more effectively with his colleagues, finding ways to manage stress, or taking steps to improve his situation, the act of purposeful action shifts his focus from frustration to empowerment. The next time you feel the urge to complain, pause for a moment. Ask yourself, can I change this? This simple question can break the cycle of complaining and shift you toward a more empowered mindset. If the answer is no, then let it go. Don't waste energy on what you can't control. If the answer is yes, then take action. By focusing on what you can do, you free yourself from the grip of negativity and start moving forward. This shift in perspective can transform your life. It gives you a sense of agency and control and fosters resilience. No longer a passive observer of your circumstances, you become an active participant in shaping your own reality. This practice doesn't just help us avoid negativity, it also nurtures gratitude. When we stop complaining and start appreciating what we have, even in the midst of challenges, we create space for more positivity to enter our lives. We shift our focus from what's wrong to what's right. It's a small shift, but over time, it can completely transform how we experience the world. Instead of seeing obstacles, we begin to see opportunities for growth, learning, and transformation. By refraining from complaining without purpose, we begin to align ourselves with the principles of mindfulness and acceptance. The Buddha didn't teach us to passively accept everything. Instead, he encouraged us to engage with life actively, in a way that minimizes suffering and maximizes peace. Complaints without purpose only deepen our discontent. But when we redirect our energy into productive action, we begin to transform not just our circumstances, but ourselves. Number 4, no empty promises. Promises may seem like simple words at first glance, but they carry immense weight. A promise is more than just a statement. It's an unspoken contract, a commitment that holds the power to shape trust, integrity, and even our relationships. Whether in personal connections, professional environments, or within communities, promises define who we are and how others perceive us. They reflect our values, character, and reliability. But when promises are made without intention or the ability to follow through, they lose their meaning. They become hollow, empty words that not only lack substance, but also risk damaging our credibility. In Buddhism, one of the core principles of ethical living is right speech. It's about speaking truthfully, kindly, and responsibly. When we make a promise, it's not just about saying the right thing, it's about ensuring our words align with our actions. To break a promise isn't just a small misstep. It's a violation of the sacred nature of our words, creating suffering not just for others, but for ourselves as well. Right speech is essential for cultivating trust, harmony, and peace. And when we make promises we can't keep, we chip away at the foundation of these principles. A broken promise breeds disappointment and resentment, slowly eroding the trust that relationships are built on. Take Greg, for example. A well-intentioned father who promises his children, "I'll be home for dinner tonight." It seems like such a simple, loving promise, one that he makes every day with the best of intentions. Yet more often than not, work demands pull him away. His meetings run late, new tasks pop up, and before he knows it, he's stuck at the office. At first, his kids are understanding. After all, they know dad's busy. But over time, the repeated cancellations start to take a toll. The promises no longer carry weight. They become something the kids expect to be broken. One evening, after yet another late night, Greg comes home to find a note from his daughter. It reads simply, "We just want you to mean it when you say it." These words hit Greg like a ton of bricks. He's been telling his children he would be there, but his actions have shown otherwise. The truth is hard to swallow. His daughter isn't upset because of a missed dinner. She's upset because she no longer trusts his word. Her disappointment isn't about the meal, It's about the empty promises that have lost their power. This moment of realization hits Greg hard. He understands now that reliability isn't just about good intentions. It's about follow-through. It's about making promises that are realistic and keeping them, even when life tries to get in the way. Buddhist wisdom offers a profound lesson here. When we speak, we should do so with intention and awareness. If we're not sure we can keep a promise, it's far better to be honest up front rather than offering empty words that set everyone up for disappointment. Mindfulness teaches us that our words and actions must align. If we cannot follow through, it's better to say, "I'm not sure I can do that," rather than making a commitment we know we can't fulfill. Next time you make a promise, pause and ask yourself, can I truly commit to this? Do I have the time, resources, and ability to follow through? If you're uncertain, be upfront about it, even if it means disappointing someone. Buddhism teaches that honesty is a virtue, especially when it's uncomfortable. When we speak truthfully, acknowledging what we can and can't do, we avoid creating unrealistic expectations and prevent unnecessary harm. Greg could have avoided all this disappointment if he had been more mindful in the first place. Instead of promising what he couldn't deliver, he might have said, "I'll do my best to be there, but sometimes work runs late. If I can't make it, I'll let you know ahead of time." That way, his children would have understood his limitations and been less hurt when he couldn't show up. Rather than offering empty promises, Greg could have been honest and communicated more effectively with his family. There's deep, transformative power in making promises we can actually keep. When we speak with integrity and follow through, we build a reputation for trustworthiness. Trust is one of the most valuable things we can cultivate in our relationships, whether personal or professional. When people can rely on our word, it strengthens the foundation of everything we do. This is the essence of Buddhist practice, acting with mindfulness, honesty, and integrity. Buddhism also teaches us about the interconnectedness of all things. When we break promises, it's not just us and the person we've disappointed. It creates ripples that extend beyond our immediate circle. A broken promise is like a pebble thrown into a pond, sending waves of disappointment, frustration, and distrust far beyond where it landed. On the other hand, when we honor our commitments, we contribute to the peace and harmony of the world around us. Right speech isn't just about telling the truth. It's about ensuring that our words align with our actions. Every promise we make is a commitment to act. When we honor our promises, we honor our respect for others and our dedication to living with purpose and truth. To live in a way that truly respects the sanctity of promises, we must practice mindfulness in every word we speak. Before making a commitment, ask yourself, can I really fulfill this? If the answer is yes, then speak with confidence and follow through. If the answer is no, then have the courage to be honest about it, even if it's uncomfortable. By doing so, we build a foundation of trust, integrity, and honor, enriching our relationships and strengthening our sense of self. In the end, the promises we keep shape the world we live in, one mindful, intentional commitment at a time. Number 5, don't deny your mistakes. How many times have you found yourself in a situation where you knew you were wrong, but couldn't bring yourself to admit it? Perhaps you made a mistake at work, in a relationship, or even in a small everyday interaction. And yet, admitting it felt like an impossible blow to your pride. It's as if acknowledging our flaws or errors exposes us, making us feel vulnerable and weak. Many of us are conditioned to believe that owning up to our mistakes is a sign of failure, a weakness in character, or a lack of strength. But the truth is, the exact opposite is true. The courage to admit our mistakes is one of the most powerful acts of strength we can show. It signifies maturity, growth, and ultimately, true resilience. At the heart of Buddhist teachings lies self-awareness, the first step toward true spiritual liberation. The Buddha taught that enlightenment begins with a deep, honest understanding of ourselves. It's about confronting our flaws and accepting our imperfections. If we are unwilling to acknowledge our errors, we can never evolve. Denying our mistakes only keeps us stuck, trapped in a cycle of self-deception where we keep justifying our actions and avoiding accountability. But by embracing our imperfections, we unlock the doors to wisdom, growth, and inner peace. Admitting mistakes isn't about wallowing in guilt or accepting defeat. It's about embracing our humanity and accepting that, like everyone else, we are prone to errors. The more we resist acknowledging our mistakes, the more we feed our ego, the part of us that thrives on denial, blame, and justification. When we refuse to face our mistakes, we let our ego take control, denying ourselves the opportunity to grow. In reality, admitting our mistakes doesn't diminish us. It elevates us. It shows integrity, humility, and emotional maturity. When we own up to our flaws, we demonstrate a willingness to learn and grow. The act of admitting a mistake is a sign of wisdom. It's proof that we recognize our limitations and are open to the lessons they offer. This openness not only fosters self-growth, but builds trust in our relationships. When we embrace our mistakes, we tell the world that we value honesty over perfection. Imagine a manager at work who makes a poor decision that leads to a project failure. Rather than deflecting blame or making excuses, the manager steps forward and openly admits their mistake. I made an error in judgment, and I see how it impacted the whole team. I'm sorry, and I will ensure this doesn't happen again. By doing this, they not only take responsibility, they set a powerful example for the entire team. They show that mistakes aren't something to fear, but opportunities to learn and grow. This kind of honesty creates a culture of trust and respect, where vulnerability becomes a strength, not a liability. Buddha's teachings emphasize mindfulness and self-awareness, encouraging us to take full responsibility for our actions, even when it's uncomfortable. Mindfulness isn't just about being present in the moment. It's about embracing our emotions, thoughts, and actions without judgment. When we make mistakes, mindfulness teaches us to be aware of our feelings of shame or guilt, but not to be overwhelmed by them. Instead, we approach our errors with compassion, recognizing that they are part of our human experience. In this way, mindfulness allows us to accept our imperfections, seeing them not as failures but as opportunities for growth. Now, I'm not saying that admitting mistakes is easy. It's not. It takes real courage to face our shortcomings and show vulnerability. It's uncomfortable to admit when we've hurt someone, made a poor choice, or let our pride cloud our judgment. But that discomfort is a signal of transformation. It's the friction that sparks change. The more we practice humility and acknowledging our mistakes, the easier it becomes. And with this practice comes deeper wisdom, the wisdom that helps us move forward with greater clarity, compassion, and understanding. When we deny our mistakes, we block ourselves from transformation. We hold on to a version of ourselves that isn't fully realized, keeping us stuck in resistance. But when we embrace our mistakes, we open ourselves up to healing, growth, and the chance to become better versions of ourselves. This is a deeply personal journey, but it's also a shared one. When we admit our mistakes and learn from them, we inspire others to do the same. In this way, owning up to our flaws can create a ripple effect, promoting collective healing and compassion. So the next time you face a mistake, big or small, pause and ask yourself, what can I learn from this? Rather than justifying or hiding from the mistake, take a moment to reflect. What caused the error? How can you avoid it next time? What steps can you take to make amends and move forward with greater wisdom? These questions aren't just reflections. They are the foundation of growth and humility, as Buddha taught us. Admitting our mistakes isn't about self-criticism or punishing ourselves. It's about recognizing that we're all human, and that our mistakes are stepping stones on the path to becoming wiser, more compassionate individuals. By owning our flaws, we create space for healing, for ourselves and for those around us. And in the end, true strength lies not in denying our mistakes, but in the courage to face them with humility and a willingness to change. Number 6, don't overshare future plans. In a world where we're constantly connected and instant communication is the norm, it's easy to slip into the habit of oversharing our dreams, goals, and future plans. Whether chatting with friends, posting on social media, or talking with coworkers, we often feel compelled to announce what's next. But here's the truth. While sharing our plans might feel good in the moment, it can dilute the energy behind them, pull us off course, and invite unwanted opinions. Simply put, declaring our intentions out loud too soon can steal the power of our quiet focus, distracting us from our true purpose. In Buddhism, silence is revered as a potent practice. one that allows us to connect with the present moment and free ourselves from the noise of the outside world. The Buddha himself often spoke about the power of silence, not just in our speech but in our thoughts and actions. Silence grants us the mental space to focus deeply and act with intention. When we talk too much about our future plans, we expose them to the judgment and expectations of others. Instead of letting our dreams grow quietly within us, we risk letting them leak out prematurely, losing some of their magic. Think about it. When we vocalize our goals before they've come to life, we invite opinions, some helpful, others not so much. Well-meaning friends and family might say, "Wow, that's ambitious," or "Are you sure that's the right move?" Even positive feedback can create pressure and plant seeds of doubt. We might find ourselves distracted by external expectations, second-guessing our own instincts, and straying from our original path. This is where silence becomes an ally. By keeping our intentions to ourselves, we preserve the energy behind them, allowing them to grow naturally. In this space, we can think clearly, plan with precision, and act without interference. When we work quietly without the need to justify ourselves or seek approval, we keep our focus sharp and our momentum strong. Let our actions speak for themselves. This is where the true power lies. Over time, the results of our efforts will show the world who we are, and that will always be more compelling than empty words. There's an old saying, "Don't count your chickens before they hatch." It's a reminder that talking too much before something is ready can lead to disappointment and frustration. In the same way, when we share our plans too early, we risk creating expectations that may not align with where we are in the process. There's a unique kind of magic in working quietly, allowing our efforts to unfold naturally, without the weight of premature judgment. When we hold back from oversharing, we give our work the space to grow, free from outside distractions. Take, for example, a musician working on a new album. Instead of broadcasting every track and concept before it's fully developed, they focus on refining their craft, pouring their energy into creating something meaningful and authentic. When the album is finally ready to share, it carries its own weight, standing strong on its own merits without the shadow of previous discussions or opinions. Silence, in this case, is a form of respect for the creative process and the result that will eventually speak for itself. On a personal level, think about how you approach your own goals. Do you find yourself telling everyone about your plans before you've taken action? Maybe you've shared your dream of starting a new business, losing weight, or writing a book, but life gets in the way and your plans don't materialize as expected. This often happens when we speak too soon, filling the space with words instead of actual work. The excitement of sharing can give us a brief sense of validation, but it doesn't provide the lasting energy needed to follow through. Buddhism teaches us to act with intention and mindfulness. Rather than seeking approval or recognition, we're encouraged to focus on each action with clarity and purpose. When we work in silence, we're practicing mindfulness. We're present in each moment, aligning our thoughts, words, and actions toward a single goal. Every step becomes deliberate, building momentum without the need for external validation. By holding our plans in silence, we cultivate the virtue of patience. This patience allows our ideas to grow organically, without the rush of external pressure. It's like tending to a garden. If we talk about planting seeds but never actually nurture them, they'll never take root. But when we plant in silence, giving our efforts the space to grow, we increase their chances of flourishing. Silence, then, becomes an act of care and respect for the process of growth. Silence also offers a powerful form of self-protection. Not everyone will understand or support our goals, and that's okay. Some people might criticize or dismiss our ambitions. By keeping our plans to ourselves, we create a protective shield, keeping negative energy away while allowing our dreams to mature. This isn't about isolation. It's about preserving the integrity of our goals until they're ready to be shared with the world. As we embrace this practice of silence, we create a deeper sense of peace within ourselves. We let go of the need for constant approval and begin trusting our own process. This trust is a cornerstone of personal growth. The more we act with quiet confidence, the less we rely on external affirmation and the more empowered we become to shape our own reality. In conclusion, silence is far more than just keeping our lips sealed. It's about focused attention, committing to action over words, and honoring the natural flow of life. When we refrain from oversharing our future plans, we not only protect our energy, but also create the conditions for our dreams to unfold with clarity, purpose, and grace. So the next time you feel the urge to tell the world about what you're about to do, pause and ask yourself, is it better to speak now or to let my actions and results do the talking? Often the quietest voice speaks the loudest. Our words shape not just how others perceive us, but also how we see ourselves. Every sentence we choose to speak is a reflection of our inner world, our values, our discipline, and our wisdom. The Buddha taught that mindful speech is one of the greatest acts of self-discipline and self-respect. When we speak with intention, when we align our words with our values, we cultivate a life of wisdom and integrity. So as you move forward, take a moment to reflect. Are your words fostering connection, understanding, and truth? Or are they being used to seek validation, project superiority, or fuel distractions? When we become mindful of our speech, we transform the way we engage with the world. Thank you for being part of this journey. If you found these insights valuable, consider applying them to your daily interactions. Let your words be a source of wisdom, clarity, and compassion. Until next time, may your speech always reflect the depth of your understanding and the sincerity of your heart.